Zingaro. But where we gonna go to now? Said you're moving and jumping and running and giving and jimming. You're almost home. Since I'm running, giving and jimming and giving and giving. Almost home. Since I'm running, jumping and running and giving and giving. Almost home. Since I'm running, giving just jumping and running and giving. Almost Zingaro. But where we gonna go to now? Oh my Zingaro. But where we gonna go to now? Oh my
Folks, welcome inside the Paris Sea Palace, high above 3773 East Broadway. This is a live edition of the Jake Feinberg Show, coming on Power Talk. Thank you so much for making us part of your day today, and what a high honor it is to bring back a friend of the program, a guy who's dwelling these days in Ashland, Oregon, but he is almost home on many of his cultivated projects and artistic projects. And one of them is a band that sort of set me on my path and my ship at sea. The band known as GSOL, collaboration with musical partner Neil Antonio Diamante. And these guys are incredibly inspirational cats. They taught me that you can live life by your own set of rules and not the rules that society says you should live by. It was incredibly empowering, and to this day has continued to guide me on the insecure path. And they've mastered a bunch of tracks that they put together over a series of years, and it's really time to get down to business because we're almost home. Alex Circiello, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Hey, Jake. Thanks for having me.
It's an honor to have you, man. Can you just first talk a little bit about somebody that we lost and was an integral part of GSOL for a while, the Conguero Miguel Bazemore?
Wow. Miguel, I think for us, as we were kind of forming our sound, he became sort of he had a military background, and he became sort of a drill sergeant. He had played with so many of our sort of musical heroes. He played with Stevie Wonder, Joe Cocker, all the LA sort of soul productions, Curtis Mayfield. So many tracks that he's the conguero on from the 70s. And so when he came into GSOL, he sort of became the drill sergeant of kind of getting our sound cultivated to a point that would be, the level of the people we aspire to be like.
I wanted to ask you specifically about because you were playing. For those that are unfamiliar, Alex keeps time with the bass drum, and I wanted to know how quickly you guys synced up because the clave. I mean, could you talk about the story of the clave as it relates to GSOL, and then ultimately how that Latin or that Afro-Cuban rhythm, how you guys were able to lock in together, how quickly that took?
Yeah, for me, and I guess to explain what clave means is sort of it kind of interprets a 4/4 time with a 3 feel.
Exactly.
And I it was hard for me to integrate with a lot of regular rock drummers who would play more of a straight 4/4. And for a long time, I thought it was something wrong with me. There was something, I wasn't doing the rhythm right or something like that. And over time, I started to understand that I was playing to this clave. And once I understood that, I was kind of able to sort of ride it. And Miguel, with his background of as a conguero, Cuban music, but also his father was Brazilian, so he had a lot of that influence. He had a similar feel for the clave, and so we just locked up immediately, in the most remarkable way, without any trouble, unlike other earlier experiences we'd had with regular rock drummers.
Yeah, no, because you've really. Can you just talk about your concept of rhythm in GSOL? Because you guys have had lots of different wind instruments and singers. We came in Zingaru, listening to that. There was a sitar on there, but there's been, I don't want to say a resistance, but there's been no trap set. And quite honestly, my whole show has become about rhythm. I've become obsessed with, like what you just said is like, I can't, quantized rhythm, 4/4 time, straight time, it doesn't really get me off. It has to be, it doesn't have to be the clave, but you have to be doing stuff that's syncopated with the bass drum, playing accent, playing rebound. Explain the philosophy behind not having a trap drummer in GSOL.
I mean, initially it wasn't a philosophy. When I was playing guitar in Europe on like the beaches in south of France, I would often hit a lot of the time I would hit the drum or the guitar like a drum to give a bass hit while I was plucking.
Absolutely.
So I would kind of provide a rhythm like that, and whenever I tried to work with a drummer, there was always sort of a problem. I think it was often rooted in this disconnect on the clave. But at the time, I wasn't really sure what it was, and I sort of aspired to play the guitar like the Gypsy Kings with a lot of sort of force and rhythm. And so I just kind of, at the end, what it ends up is I'm playing the trap set through the guitar and the kick drum. I'm giving the bass beat with the kick drum, and then my guitar brush strokes are like a hi-hat and a rim shot.
Wow, I love that. I mean, sonically, in a live setting, are you able to generate a lot of sonic, vibration and sound? Because you're sort of. It's sort of.
It works best in an intimate environment. The recording environment,
right?
Where it's like the best, or just a room with nice acoustics. You can really appreciate the brushstrokes of the guitar. When we get into loud environments, it starts to eat away at the sound. But yeah, basically the trap set then gets reinterpreted through the rhythm guitar and the kick drum, and you create a new sound, and partly by accident, of course.
Of course, those accidents are the best discoveries. That's what leads to the gateway to new vocabulary. But it leads into the question when we connected recently in these times of more intimacy. Let's face it, families are all over each other right now. They're inside houses. They're in quarantine. And can you talk about the intimate and lilting quality of GSOL and the idea that it could be an incredibly seductive musical force in these times, because nobody for a long time is going to be going to see live music at rock halls or theaters.
Right. And I heard this saying recently, I don't know if you've heard this, that white man makes a big fire and sits far away, and Indian makes a small fire and sits up close.
Yes, I've never heard that. Big fire.
So I think when things are intimate, when somebody's yelling at the listener, or the sound is coming at them in a powerful,
right.
It can sometimes get deeper because you're more open to it. Similarly, I think in these times when people are close to each other, it's not about the fancy vacation on Majorca or something, but instead it's these close, intimate relationships.
Yeah, right. Do you think that, in your mind, that people are able to, I see people sort of like crawling, at least from the outside looking in, this need to reopen and this need to go back to what you were talking about, you know, greed or the fancy vacations, the material stuff. You know, that's not really what spiritual music is about. And I just wonder if you think that there are pockets of people all over this country and the world, for that matter, that will gravitate to this music, or do you think that we are still in sort of a berserko-capitalist mindset? I only say this because, like, I mean, with just the tempo of things and the way things work, and business has to be done yesterday, and all this sort of, you know, it's just a bunch of wankers, really, you know. And in order to really dock emotionally and listen to this music, you have to be, I mean, you have to drop to your soul. And do you think that? I mean, maybe.
Well, or you need, at least you need more space and time. Like it's a more slow environment, not it's not necessarily what you put on to sort of power yourself to work at 8 in the morning through the commute kind of thing. But on the other hand, I think it can help in the middle of the traffic if you're stuck there and you want to like feel okay instead of feeling enraged, you know. Right.
No, it's more of a meditative thing when you might otherwise be losing your mind. So I love Alex. I mean, I know him personally. He's a great guy. And but one thing I will say in listening to this music, and we'll just take Zingaru as an example, that had some articulated ideas in English language. Like, so there was some stuff to hang on to outside of the, you know, I don't want to say scat singing or singing in your own language. Can you talk about, you know,
how language works?
Yeah, well, I think specifically, yeah, we can get into the whole thing. I do want to talk about how actual phrases come, because when I hear the phrases, it's inspiring. So take us through the process, the evolution of the English phrasing.
I mean, it comes about much in the same way that the vocalizing or the singing in tongues does. It's just so I'll start off with, like, in that song, that rhythm, that do 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 almost home, you know, and then so I've got sort of basic rhythmic points, and then when I have that phrase almost home, and for those who don't know, Zingaro means gypsy, so it's suggestive of it's a song to a gypsy who's almost home, you know, because the gypsy is always wandering. And so that sort of motion, that has the feel of action, you know, working, doing. And so the words I put in there, I think it's, you're moving and jumping and running around, you're almost home. Because you're moving and jumping and running. You're almost.
No, I dig. You're almost. Yeah. I mean, it was. So, but how about other things? I mean, yeah, go ahead, continue.
Yeah, let me just follow up on that. Is that the I try to, for myself, I like that the sounds are already representative of meaning, which is why I'm sort of, that's kind of why I was able to sort of let go, you know, using any words at all certain places, just that the sounds itself are saying something. But then when I do attach words to it, I like that the words match up with the sounds, so that there's something, you know, connected between the two, or they're purposely dissonant, but there's some awareness between the two, the feel of the notes and the content of the words.
Yeah, no, it's actually remarkable because do you read music?
Yeah, I mean, not I can't sight read like.
Yeah, what I'm talking about is that you learned music by ear. I mean, you've learned it all by ear, and that to me, and the best jazz musicians, and the reason that was such a popular music at one time was because a lot of those cats, they learned music by ear before they learned to sight read, and therefore their ears were not locked, so they could hear deeper. And you guys hear really deep, and you know, this timeless rhythm, you know, and this idea of syncing up the you know, the notes in the song and the melodies of the song with the themes of the song has to come from deep listening. And I mean, is this the most unique world project you've done? Have you ever worked with other world musicians, you know, before GSOL?
I mean, yeah, I did, especially in the world category. I would say I played a lot with a group of Chilean musicians in Berkeley at La Peña. I mean, you may know La Peña.
Oh no, that's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah, I played a lot of music with those guys, and in that case, it wasn't like GSOL is sort of world music in the sense that its ingredients come from all around the world. But it's not it's not indigenous to anywhere.
No, absolutely. But I mean, everybody that's in the group, you know, dude, my man, dude, the guitar player, Anton, dude. I mean, you know, actually the better. It's all intergalactic people. It's like beyond.
Right.
It's beyond the Earth. You know, it's like.
Right.
And I guess this is a better question. When, so you've played with other accomplished world musicians, but this idea of finding people to come, Miguel's an example, Anton's an example, you know, there's all these other, Boon May. When did you guys learn, can you talk about this leap of faith, for lack of a better word, and when you started to trust in letting nature or the musicians find you and not force anything, and allow it to be a completely organic process, and that how magical that feeling is?
I mean, I think there was a significant moment for me where there's two stories there. One, I was working at a pretty nice like corporate job in just before the 2008 crash, and in this job I was in charge of the events in this big theater at this giant corporation. And when there were no events going on, I really didn't need to be at work. So I had most of my time off, but I had a steady corporate job with like health benefits and all the things you would want from that, but a lot of time to myself to work on music. And at the time I thought, what am I going to do if I lose this job? Because it's so nice. I can, you know, spend most of my time working on music, but I'm being covered, you know, financially and all the rest.
Absolutely.
And then I asked myself the question, what if it works the other way around? What if it's because I'm devoting so much time to music that I came by, you know, sort of fortuitously this job situation? And I thought, I'm going to experiment with this.
Dude, I love that reverse engineering, man. That is fantastic.
And so I thought I'm just gonna devote myself completely to music, and come what may, just write it out and see what happens.
Dude, that is awesome. That is awesome.
So then the 2008 financial crisis hit, and I lost the job. You know, but I got what's it called?
A severance package. Yeah.
I got a severance package that covered me for 1 year, and I moved into an apartment above a abandoned cafe with a stage, and the landlord let me have the keys to this beautiful stage. So suddenly I was doing music more than I was before, because I was now I was no longer, I had no corporate obligations at all. I had a severance package, and I lived above the stage, so I just did music all the time.
Was it in Oakland or Berkeley? Was it in Oakland?
That was in Oakland on 40th Street.
Wow.
And so then I wrote that severance package and doing music, and I wrote that to unemployment, and then Neil started, you know, financing my trips out to Tucson, and just, you know, things just unrolled in their own way after that. And so I think that was your devotion in a certain way.
You've spent quite a bit of time on other creative projects, and one in particular, and I just wonder if I like your sense of time. I mean, there's no real TikTok time with GSOL, and there's been a little bit of a space, and you kind of want to come back and hit it hard right now. And I just want you to talk about, you know, the idea of feeling when the universe is sort of lining up with the insecure path that you've taken, and if this is the time to begin that.
You mean like is right now feel like the universe is lining up for us to?
I'm just saying.
More stuff with GSOL,
I mean, I think the there's a you know, sort of a. I look at my career knowing that, you know, I could be wrong. I mean, obviously I'm writing books and, you know, and things like that, but I just feel like there's like a natural window of opportunity, similar to like, you know, someone being able to, you know, a certain lifespan to something before that chapter closes and a new one begins. And I just wonder if you feel like just because you've been kind of, you know, you're up in Ashland, it's really off the grid, the propensity of your trips to Tucson have, you know, cut down.
I see. Like
yeah,
is the window closing on?
Or is it time to move because the window's not going to be open forever? You know.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh, because it's like, I don't know. You know, the thing is that our focus was always on the recordings. Like we were always even when we went to live shows, it was you know, the audience would inspire a good recording out of us. So our focus was always on the recordings. And those recordings finding a home in terms of a time period, you know, it's not like they're, you know, some people, there's enough people who like it, but it's not, you know, the biggest thing ever or anything. And I think that, you know, we'll probably do, of course, more recordings, but I think it's more like the music from 10 years ago is still looking for a home in terms of a place to sit in time. And so now maybe, you know, a period of time that's more fertile ground for that music.
I love that. Well, I mean, talking to Alex Circiello here on the Jake Feinberg Show, let's put in another piece of music off the Masters, Undiscovered, and then we'll come back and break it down. That was Bass Boom 1 off Undiscovered. You know, can you, I mean, this is, I really hope you can go there with me on this one. But I've interviewed drummers that played with Nelson Riddle, and he was a musical director for Frank Sinatra. And when it was late enough, and he was talking about the rhythms of the way he wanted the big band or the band behind Sinatra to swing, he referred to it as the rhythms of sex. And I wanted for you to talk about like the rhythms of GSOL and as it relates to liberation, physical liberation, and the rhythms of sex.
Yeah. what's the word I'm blanking right now on? Freud's word for.
I don't know, dude. I can't help you right now, man. I mean, there was a like. I mean, it seemed to me it's an enjoyable feel. It's a meditative feel. It's a peaceful feel. It's a feel of being in union. Like it feels good. And so that's.
Let me just actually, Jake. Let me look up the word. 'Cause it's the perfect word. I'm on my phone. Let me just look it up.
Okay, go ahead and look it up, Al.
Okay.
Oh man, GSOL's newest album here. We got The Masters, Undiscovered, Beatrice, Bilal, Easy Street, It's All Right, Leap of Faith, Simbado, Soma. So many unknowns. Zingaru 1, Zingaru 2.
Sublimation, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's it. That's a good word.
Yeah. So, sublimation, basically you take sexual energy and you put it towards something else, generally towards the arts or sports, just like that.
Right.
And so I think both Neil and I, had a lot of energy to sublimate. And
this is epic. I mean, and you were, and
so
we
were looking for that outlet. The thing is about sublimation is if you're being sexual in the world, there's all kinds of consequences that come from that. But when you sublimate and take that sexual energy and transfer it towards art and creative projects, for the most part, I mean, maybe someone doesn't like it, and critiques it or something, but otherwise, it doesn't really do any harm. And you have the possibility of creating something that is not only doesn't do any harm, but maybe has some lasting value as well. So I think for both of us, that element of sublimating those sexual energies into music was definitely a big part of what pushed the sales.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's one of your major things for you to because there's a lot. We talked about this. There's just a lot of fluff out there. People talking about relationships, or I love this guy or that, or I guess the word is just essence, and there's just a groove essence there, and a camaraderie there. And I ask you about the process of recording, being that was one of the primary, if not the primary, priority of GSOL, was getting these recordings mastered. Is there something to be said for? I mean, you guys inspired me in a lot of ways to be as creative as possible on the radio, and I've just continued to just be it's easier. I'm not in a band. I don't have to deal with multiple personalities or things like that. but you don't want to lose focus, but you want to be able to see through the forest. And I wonder about the idea of. My point about doing my show is that I've just done a lot of interviews, and recently I can't think of the last time I had a bad interview, but it took a long time, and there's just a lot of stuff out there, and I realize that artists want to be very careful about what they release. But what I found with a lot of younger cats, not GSOL per se, but just sort of this sort of angst about needing perfection before they get stuff out to the world, and I feel like
yes.
And I feel like with coronavirus, I just feel like with this new thing, it just proves that we don't have, we have to produce a lot in this time, in our life. We don't have a lot of time.
Yeah, well, and I think the other part of it is that for us, so this goes back to the second thing I was trying to say earlier about sort of major shifts that kind of formed GSOL. And that was, I went to this, Indian spiritual ritual in which you had to, it was a new moon ritual, and you had to make a promise for that lunar cycle that you would uphold. And I can't remember if I was toying with the idea where it popped up, but in my mind, I saw the idea of recording in stereo, which basically meant not tracking, which means the guitar, the vocals, everything's happening in that moment.
Dig.
And when you record it in stereo, you can't go back and change it. So it's like this is what you look like naked.
Yeah, but I kind of dig that because that's I don't think I ever recognized that. I would just assume you'd be in mono, but I guess you can't, you'd just be in stereo now because back in the day, the Charlie Parker records, there'd be flubs on those records. There's nothing you could do about it. And then you have the multi,
Exactly.
but the idea of the multi-track.
But we were choosing to do it that way.
Explain why.
In order to, it's basically like, this is what you look like naked in the mirror, and this is what you look like naked like every day, like 10 times a day when we were recording music. We're just recording and recording and recording. We're just constantly having to see what we look like in the mirror. There's no escaping it. There's no saying, oh, when we get into the studio, we'll do it like this. It's just, this is what we sound like.
I love it. I fucking love it.
And because of that, it was a way of conquering the fear that comes in when you have sort of multi-tracking and you think you're trying to get everything perfect. You're hesitant to do anything. It sort of countered that by being like, either you get it in this moment or you didn't get it. And
so at the Indian prayer service, you got a vision or you promised yourself you were going to record in stereo. This is the greatest story ever, as opposed to multi-tracking.
Yeah, for a month I was doing that, and because I had been multi-tracking of like where I'd do 50 takes of a guitar solo. I'd redo the bass 30 times, move parts of the bass from here to like the way most songs are done nowadays. Like,
sure.
It's lots of looping, all kinds of moving things around. So I was sort of countering that with some sort of authentic path in which, with a stereo, I have no option but to just play it well in the moment. But I think that countered that fear of recording and of putting anything out there, and so we just kind of kept going and going. And what ends up happening is you record 100 songs and you throw away 90, and 10 of them are really good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
so,
and a lot of people would say, I wonder about this too, like when you guys, thinking back to the Rabbit Ranch days when a lot of this recording was going on, you talk to any of the cats that are, studio sharks that have been doing this for years and are guys that are just problem solvers and they play on all types of music, they'll say the first or the second take is normally the best. And I just wonder when you guys were cooking in that Arizona heat, if you found that, how many of these mastered tracks were, if you remember, first or second takes? I mean, sometimes after a while, you suck all the soul out of it after track 17 or track.
Oh, that's the point. They're all first takes.
That's right. Yeah,
we didn't do any retakes. The retake would be that what we do is develop. I would come for a week, so we would develop maybe 20 songs.
Wow.
In the first 3 days, based on ideas I brought with me. So I usually had I'll record ideas that come to me, just sitting in the bus stop or something. And so I would build those with Neil in those first 3 days. And, over that week, we would record each song 3 times. And usually by the third time, it wasn't as good anymore.
That's right. Exactly.
But that was 3 times, not like takes, like you think of like, all right, guys, we've got to get this, take on this song. It was just that we would be recording on Monday, Zingaro, and then we would record it again at a party on Friday.
I got it.
That kind of thing.
Oh, I dig. You said something interesting earlier about in the live context, like a lot of times the audience obviously really wasn't, they were the ones that sort of allowed you guys to transcend and take the music to a different level. And I mean, can you talk about an inspiring, I've been on the road a lot the last couple of years since you moved up to the Pacific Northwest, and live music for me is a completely different experience now, because I used to just go because it was like everybody else, my friends were going, or I was going to see this band, but I would sit and I would stare, and now it's like I have to be up front in front of the stereo speakers to get the natural stage sound and to feel the vibration of all the musicians. It is the most healing stuff. And I recognize that you guys aren't a plugged in electric, funky fusion band, but can you talk about a gig where you were totally inspired by the audience and the way they raised the collective consciousness?
The ones that come to mind, which will probably not like it's not an obvious answer, but is when we played to large yoga gatherings, because I like that environment. It's obviously not a normal live music environment.
Yeah, right.
But I like that environment because nobody claps, and so there's this.
I love it. I freaking love it.
The silence is just pervasive and large, and that's kind of for me a canvas to paint on. Like without the silence, if there's not a lot of silence, then there's not a lot to work with. If there's a lot of silence, then the slightest little sound like reverberates. So yoga studios have been, I think, the most enjoyable live experience that I've had.
This is fascinating. So you end a tune, and that silence is there, not the traditional, sort of dog. We become so trained to like clap after every tune instead of making it more of a spiritual experience.
People even clap if they don't like it. That's the thing.
That's exactly. We're trained to do that. So when you say that it gives you opportunities to paint on, all of a sudden that space gives you opportunity to paint. You're talking about for the rest of that set. All of a sudden there's new inspiration because you have this awe, this aura of space.
I mean, when we drop down, like when the instruments drop down, there's no other sound. So it's just silence and us. But then there's a bunch of people watching too. So, they're there. The people's presence is there, but it's a silent presence, not a ruckus presence.
It's just such. I mean, this is. I'm just so geeked up about the whole thing. Let's play another tune off Undiscovered, and then we'll come back.
I wanna know where do you go? I wanna know what does she show? What does she keep it natural? What does she keep it natural? Chica-cha.
But does she keep it natural? Oh my God. Mind-blowing work by GSOL live on the Jake Feinberg Show. Natural.
That's on sitar there is Benjamin.
I'm trying to place who is Benjamin is he a cat from Ashland? I don't remember who that is.
We met him in Berkeley. He is half British, half Japanese.
Oh.
So he spoke with a Japanese accent, like he oscillated between a British accent and a Japanese accent.
And he's playing the sitar,
But with long, like beautiful long hair, like a real sort of demigod-like character who devoted himself to sitar music, classical sitar. And we were able to coax a couple of evenings out of him of sort of transcending, the classical. And
can you put me back do you remember that exact take? And where was that, in Tucson or was that in Berkeley? Where was that?
That was recorded in my grandparents' house in San Francisco.
Wow.
That I grew up in. Yeah.
Wow.
We were selling that. My grandparents had both passed away. We were selling the house, and we were putting on an art salon in the house, the sort of grand old Victorian in San Francisco. And we'd set up to perform at this art salon, but for the prior week we were rehearsing, and that was one of the recordings from the rehearsals.
Like with someone like that cat, Benjamin, I think that one of your cool leadership skills is that you don't micromanage. You're not inundating people with things that you want. You kind of draw it out. How do you draw things out of people in a nonverbal way to get them to transcend like what the normal classical idiom that they'd be playing in?
So that's another sort of thing that changed. So by nature, I'm usually pretty dominating in the sense that, like, I have exacting ideas about how the inside of the fridge should be.
Absolutely.
And I mostly, when I was tracking and engineering, I mostly initially approached music that way. I would tell, the guitar player, I need a solo here for 8 bars. It'd be like this. That one wasn't good enough. I need a couple more G notes at the end. Like whatever. I would micromanage the hell out of it. And I always found that it didn't give me the results I wanted. So then I started sort of moving over to an idea of finding players whose style was something I liked, and then it was just sort of a matter of placing them, within the orchestra. So it's better, for example, to have the sitar and the guitar, or like a lead guitar, not playing at the same time because it's the same register, so they compete with each other. But if I have Anton sit out and I have Benjamin on the sitar, it means he's in the right sort of tonal range, and I like his style. And then it's just a matter of, here's some space to play with. Okay, now I'm singing, so back off a little bit, and now I'm gonna pass it back to you. And then it just becomes that kind of natural dance with people that already kind of play in that way. So I wouldn't have to micromanage.
That's just one of the most profound things. I mean, it's about passing the ball. Any of my favorite bands, it's a conversation, and some of those bands are so fearless that they will go off the rails and then come back on the rails, and that's and this is sort of one of the things I want to hash out with you in part as we wrap up set 1 here. Is just, okay, you have all these different interchangeable parts. You have this roster of incredibly divine musicians. They're all operating on that frequency. But yet, if you listen to these tracks in a normal time, not during an epidemic or a pandemic, but, if you put out an album, cats in Arkansas or, Chicago or Boston, they hear this stuff and, they're going to say, well, okay, if you went on a tour per se, we want you guys to play something similar to what we are hearing on this CD that we love so much.
Oh, they want it to be repeated.
Well, not even in a formula trip. I'm not even talking about that. I'm just talking about the idea of the instrument. Like if people showed up to see you guys and then it was just a duo, as opposed, how because not everybody's available, but yet the music is intoxicating. So how do you square that circle?
Well, I think one thing you bring up there at least is because I remember I was told when I first started playing with letting go of the language, which that path happened for me partly because when I went to Europe. I kind of left everything and went to Europe to do something. I didn't quite know what, but I knew it was going to be one of three things, basically film, writing, or music. And I decided it was going to be writing, and so I left my guitar here, sort of a statement. I was letting go of music. I wasn't going to be doing music anymore. And I went to the south of France to be a writer. And I was, writing stuff and trying to share it with people. But everybody spoke French, and nobody understood what I was writing.
Dude, this is awesome, dude. I love it.
So then a guy on the beach, heroin addict guy on the beach, had a sort of someone had given him a kind of half-up guitar. And so I financed the strings for the guitar, and he and I split it for the summer, just sort of sharing this guitar. And I just started playing songs on the beach, and then it didn't really matter if people understood what I was saying, because people appreciated the music, without understanding the concept.
Absolutely.
Especially if you've ever been outside of America, most people are listening to American songs all the time without knowing what the hell it's about.
Music just has a whole different significance outside. It's just part of life.
Right. So that meant for me that I was suddenly in a situation in which people were understanding something from the music, whether they understood the language or not. I was still just writing songs in English. Then I started adding in French words or Italian words. And then at some point when we were in Tucson, I would scat in that way of just kind of letting go of language and just playing with the words and stuff. But at some point I kind of had the thought, I think I'd seen the jazz documentary by Ken Burns.
Right.
Have you seen that?
Sure, yeah.
And so, Charlie Parker's line when he realized he could, the way he could approach doing the scales over the chords and stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
Suddenly he could fly, And for me, I had so much to say musically, much more than I had to say literally. And also, literal has the problem that you have, as a singer, you have to agree with what you're saying. And or be acting it, I guess.
Authentically acting is hard. Yeah, that's right.
Yes, right. So, which is kind of brings us around to the repeating thing. Is that for me it's always been hard to pretend or to repeat something if I no longer like it, but I have to keep repeating it. It just doesn't sound very good after a while. My body almost gag reflexes on it. Right. I can't do it.
Yeah.
And so,
wow.
And so when I let go of the language requirement and just started trying musically, it was like there were so many things I had to say and so many because the rhythms were so sort of Stan Getz or something it's the voice imitating Stan Getz is imitating the voice and I'm the voice imitating Stan Getz.
Absolutely. No, I mean that's some of the greatest horn players. They're the people they listen to most are vocalists. Charlie Parker learned to play every song in every key, and he completely unlocked the door for him. He was flying easy, as Donny Hathaway said. And I just in closing, I wanted you to talk a little bit. It is the only word that comes to mind when I listen to your music live or studio stuff is mystical. And, I just wonder on this path that you took, going full bore towards your creative true nature, whether you get visited by your father in your dreams and if he's supportive and or cheering you on in your journey.
My father key modern cradle. My, you know, my wish is my mission. Literally, when,
What an honor to have Alex Circiello. The spirits are at work. That was insane. We'll be right back with Luca Benedetti on the Jake Feinberg Show.
I wanna know where do you go? I wanna know what does she show? What does she keep it natural? What does she keep it natural? Cha-cha-cha. But does she keep it natural? But does she keep it natural? Chicano.